Good morning, good afternoon, hello, bonjour, hola. Now, I'm making this video. I wasn't supposed to make it right away, but I was watching some YouTube right now while I was doing something else, and I usually have YouTube or something like that in the background, with some music, with documentary, whatever. I like the background noise, but and Americans were talking about the sorry, I was just eating not eggs today. Americans were talking about the reply of Mr. Trump to the fact that Walmart has increased its prices due to the tariffs and has said it so. Not just Walmart, but I think he focused on Walmart because, after all, it's one of the largest supermarket chains or whatever they are. I think they have everything, even guns apparently, all over the. No, it's one of the biggest chains in pardon me, in the US, you know. And he was talking about then Mr. Trump in his private propaganda machine, the truth, whatever. He was telling something I won't talk about exact words, but he said that Walmart will have to eat the tariffs because they were making record profits last year, and now they they are doing this to their clients, and we will see it. We will, in a few words, threatening to unleash his magadogs on Walmart or whatever. And now, I when I'm talking about something, I do some research, and I'm very quick at it. Okay, and I don't go to unreliable sources. I don't go to propaganda machines. I cut it from the start. Why? Because you cannot waste your time when you're doing research. You have to go to the official sources and preferably sources outside that country. There are some countries where you really need to go into their official sources and they are reliable. In the case of the US, you have a couple of sources that are reliable, but majority it's a bit how would I put it? I would not say lies, but it's people pick up a fact and then create a narrative about it. And after a while, the fact is some washed up version of a fact, and the narrative is the fact. If I make myself clear, okay? You forgive me, but English, as you can see, is not my first language, not even my second. I think it's my third or fourth. Sorry, I'm not polishing my ego. Okay, I'm just saying why I sometimes lose the words or whatever, or the proper grammar. Or, you understand? Okay, but and I realize that, for example, if you don't know this, in many small towns and villages and even cities across the United States, for about 20 years or more, Walmart is in fact the only shop. Why? Because they sell everything and they sell it much cheaper. And unlike, for example, and I will give the example that I know, my country, unlike, for example, Portugal, where supermarkets cannot sell things such as medicine, such as specialized hardwares, for example, whatever, in the US they can. So quickly, the supermarket replaced the town pharmacy, the town hardware shop, all of it. Those shops went under. Why? Because Walmart could sell things much cheaper. And Americans that apparently don't like local business, I'm saying what I think, okay? Because there are plenty of shops here that might not be the cheapest ones, but they have a different perspective in presenting you the product. They offer things that you cannot find in the supermarket. They do customize sales. You okay? Oh, okay. And some of them are just that good. You can go to a shop and okay. But carry on. So virtually during the last 20 to 30 years, Walmart has pretty much become the only true shop in towns all across America, and especially in smaller towns where a lot of MAGA voters, I assume, come from. A lot of Trump voters go to Walmart, go to Home Depot. That was in hot waters because I think minorities started a nationwide boycott against their products because they removed their, how you call it. Look, basically, the US had a law similar to the one we have in Europe, but ours in Europe, in the EU. But ours is a bit more wide and less complicated and less weird, to be honest. But they had some protection to protect people of ethnic minorities, to protect people of other gender, of people that are gay, transgender, whatever, disabled. They have this law. This is a sensitive law, okay? We need to have, if we have groups that are not especially protected by law, we need to have some protection. I'm not saying, look, I am not a man that thinks that you should have quotas for this and quotas for that. That is absolutely ridiculous. What I am pro for is to have equal opportunity. So if you have, for example, you have two people applying for the same job, one is black and the other one is white. Okay, when you are choosing between them, you should choose the person that is most qualified for that job. You should not choose one, for example, you should not choose one of the races that you want because the person is of that specific race. And I don't know, but around here that is politeness. It's a bit primitive. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Attention, okay? There are races everywhere, and I have said this on this channel. The most racist person I ever met in my life was a black guy. Okay, so black people in America, if you think black people are not racist, they cannot be racist. Like I heard someone say, shut the fuck up, because you have not lived, you don't know what happens in the world. You don't even know what happens in your country, but that is another story, okay? You probably just know what happens in the street where you live, and even so, I don't really know that, okay? But continue. But uh, most American business had those laws, and those laws were beneficial. They were a layer of protection for people that are less prone to be able to defend themselves, okay? And I think Home Depot remove those laws because Trump has been saying everyone to remove them. Okay, well, if I say Trump, okay, you should not associate this with nothing more than a person that sometimes uses German words in this common language. Okay, and I use them sometimes. So Mr. Trump told businesses to remove those laws, or he would cancel this, cancel that. He told it to the universities. He told it to everyone. Okay, we all know the famous question he had with Harvard University. Okay, and so as I was saying, these shops, they are all the Americans have because they live in most of them, and I'm not saying every town is the same. Of course not. How could I say such a thing? But majority, it's a town that probably has a church, a Walmart, I don't know, a McDonald's or something like that, and that's all. And people live in the suburbs, and they have to use their cars or whatever to go to those shops, to go to the petrol station, gas station, like you say, to the gas station, to the Walmart or Home Depot to make their shopping that they need, their groceries, whatever they need, because in Walmart you can find everything. Okay, and that is it. And now, Mr. Trump is telling Walmart that has stated that since these tariffs are coming into fruition right now, they are giving their nice crop. Because first, he planted wins. This is a very old saying in Portugal. If you plant wins, you will harvest storms. Okay, so he planted a lot of wins with the tariffs, and now he is receiving, and now and for a while now, he is receiving the crop, the poison fruit, the poison gift. And the first thing I'm going to say is this: by him saying that the business in the United States, American business, should eat the tariffs, number one, he's admitting that, like every economist experts, every government, every person with two brain cells has said that tariffs are taxes on your own people. That then the way he is using tariffs, that's not the way. I also have discussed this in another stream, in another video. I think it was in the video, but basically, you use tariffs when you want to protect a section of your productive market, productive area, where you want to protect some things, like for example, some farming products, an industry, like for example, a car industry or whatever. You impose those tariffs basically to help those companies have an advantage over the foreign competition. And that is the only reason why you use tariffs. Or if you want to protect the production of a good or whatever. Okay? That is the only reason. But now he's admitting that effectively it's the American people that is paying for those tariffs, as everyone told him. Secondly, he's trying to control a privately owned company to do what he wants. So, do you remember planified? Sorry, I forget that you Americans don't even know, most of you. Remember that when I'm saying you Americans don't know, I'm talking to the majority. If you know these concepts, if you understand what I'm saying, please don't feel offended because I do not mean to offend you. Okay? I'm just speaking of the majority that you know, like I know, that I'm speaking absolute truth. But planified economy, my dear Americans, is one of the basic the most basic of basics of a theory that some call socialism or communism. So he is being a socialist, at least. He's even corrupt, like most of the socialist systems that ended precisely because of that reason. And it is precisely for that reason that in Europe we are not socialists. We are capitalist, normal economies. The difference is that since we are not dumb, we see that there are great things in communism, there are great things in socialism, great ideas that we can adapt and use in our economy. Like, for example, us paying taxes to have healthcare. It's not free. Having healthcare, having a social network to protect us and the weakest people in our societies. Okay? So, two things right now. He's admitting that his plan for the tariffs did not work. It could never work, to be honest. And he's taking a socialist attitude. Secondly, he mentions that Walmart had record profits in the last year. Okay, uh, Americans, you tell me this. What is the purpose of having a business? Okay, why would you have a business? To have money, to earn something. You are not there to provide a service for someone and then just get paid whatever you spent on that business, on the things that you are selling, for example. You know, if I buy some apples, 50 kilos of apples from the farmer at €5 a kilo, I'm not going to sell them to you for €5 a kilo. No, I'm going to sell you. First of all, if I walked or if I went in my car to pick up those apples, or if I send someone, if I have an employee to do it, you are going to pay all of that. So I'm going to add that to your Apple cost. And then I'm not just going to break even. I need a profit. I'm there to make a profit. And the basic, and I had business too. Okay, I was in businesses. Understand this. Hmm? I want at least double my investment after I have broke even. So, for example, imagine that the entire process of the apples had cost me €10. The euro right now is more or less the same as the dollar, so you can call it dollars if it makes it easier for you to understand my reasoning. Imagine this with taxes, with all of that, those apples are costing me €10. I'm not going to sell you those apples for €20. I'm going to sell you those apples for at least €30 or 40 or 50. And then in between that margin of breaking even and my profit, that is where I'm going to get my profit. But I'm not forced to have lower taxes because a government tells me to eat the tariffs, meaning clean up this shit. Number one, because I don't really even think that is viable. Okay? Number two, I'm in a dominant position in the market. So why should I? I won't. I'll use the law. I'll sink the business and go somewhere else. And if this type of attitude continues, this is what will happen. In fact, I'll tell you this because this is not absolutely reliable news. This is the reason why I don't talk with it talk about it. Sorry, because if you do not know this, misinformation and fake news are crimes in Europe, in the EU, in my country, in Portugal, in most of the countries in the EU, it's a crime to spread misinformation and fake news, even in an opinion piece like this one that I'm doing. Okay, but what I am told, take it as with a pinch of salt, take it as you want, is that a lot of business is already doing that. Even businesses, the big companies that have their headquarters in the US, the bulk of their production in the US, like some unnamed soda companies, some unnamed fast food chains, they are already picking up their profits and investing them in other countries, even in other companies, because they know this situation, it cannot be sustained. Okay, you cannot plan a business when there's someone that all of a sudden decides to put tariffs on this and tariffs on that, and that now is calling the fact that he was forced to bend the knee and basically roll back tariffs. That is what he is doing, but he calls that a victory. What did he want? Nothing. Market instability. Okay, I'm not even going to talk about what we know that he is winning in Bitcoin, that what he is winning in other things. I'm not even going to talk about that because I think I don't need to do that. It's abundantly clear what is happening in that area, so I won't talk about it. At least not in this video. Perhaps in the future. But thousands of American businesses already are going under or are already under. A lot of them will close. A lot of jobs will be lost. A lot of domestic production will be lost. He is scaring all the people that could, in fact, innovate and create new technologies in the economy. They are all getting out. Some are going to Europe. I even saw news right here in Portugal. I think I heard it in the radio on my way to work about 3 or 4 scientists that were already in a Portuguese university working with a special visa. No, the university got them the job, sent them, and they came. Because right here, now in Portugal, right now, it's like this. If you want to come to live and work here, you first have to go to the embassy in the country you are, and then if you have a job here, if you have a way to sustain yourself here, then you can enter the country, go to your job, and work and have a temporary residence card. Okay, so universities here, they know people in the academia in these means in these areas, they know themselves, doctors, engineers, nuclear physicists, scientists of all kind, expert personnel in lab technique, in laboratories. You understand what I'm trying to say? These people, they all know each other, because they go to conferences, they publish work, so people get to know each other. Okay, some of them even went to the same university. Perhaps they went to get their master's degree in Harvard, for example. I'm just giving you an example, or whatever. Or people get to know each other and they talk. And for example, imagine this university here needs 2 new biotechnology teachers, and understand that these people, they are not just there giving classes. They are also working with the state, working with private companies to create new technologies. You have to understand this. It's not just a teacher preaching from a pulpit. No. Today, universities don't work like this. If you tell me a high school, okay, that's how it works. They are there to just teach. But in the universities, it's an entire different area. And they say, look, we need 2 new teachers. And and Bob says, hey, Dean, you want to know what? Right now, we don't have qualified people here are not so good. We need better people to work in this project. So I'll tell you what. I heard that I don't know, Thomas and John in the US, they were looking for a way to get out of there and come to Europe to continue their work. I will give them a phone call. We will draw up a contract with a normal pay. We can offer them other conditions, like for example, a place to stay in. A residence subsidy for them to pay the rent and whatever. They come to Europe. They go to the embassy in their country. They show the contract. The embassy confirms the situation with the respective Portuguese entity, and off they go. They arrive here. Maybe the pay is not it's not that it's or maybe it's a little lower or whatever. But imagine this: I will pay you less, 500 euros, whatever, but the money that you earn here, due to the cost of life, and it's not very cheap. People have this idea that it's cheap. No, but you pay your taxes and you have healthcare. Okay, you have security in your job. No one can fire you just because they want, and you have a minimum of 22 days of vacation a year minimum, and does not include, sorry, Sundays, and sometimes in some jobs Saturdays, and it also does not include official holiday days here in the country. And I will have to add those vacation days. They are Monday to Friday. We call it the English week. Monday to Friday. So 5 days. So in practice, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of vacation minimum, and all the extra hours of work that you put in, they are paid or compensated with vacation days, and you mandatorily have to enjoy those days of vacation. See, this is one of our inheritance from socialism, one that actually works because workers that are motivated, they work better. You Americans that work so hard, you can barely reach the average productivity of a European worker that has vacations, that can have days off, that can have weeks for parental license for the father too, all of that, and still you can barely reach in some areas. There are some areas of the US that have a higher productivity that can reach the European productivity. You cannot reach a European productivity. You cannot reach an Asian productivity. There are dozens of developing countries that have a higher productivity than you, and they have all of these rights. And you think you are working hard. You are like animated monkeys running from across the room. Have you seen what China is building up? Nuclear plants, technology, all of it. And even in that country, that is a dictatorship. In practice, it is. It's a soft one, but it's an authoritarian regime. But even there, people have vacation days. Even there, people have sick days. Even there, people have a healthcare system. Even there. And then you have a president that says to producers, eat the tariffs. And then you have people saying such abhorrent things like, this is like those fancy products made in Europe that were all being produced in China, and then they just put a stamp on it and send it here for us to buy. And now I can buy them directly from China. I also have spoken about this in another stream. This one, I think, was in the stream actually. But you want to know how, for example, most of those highly sought brands of European luxury bags, luxury clothing, luxury shoes. You want to know how they are done? The headquarters decides everything. And then they can, for example, I'll tell you this example of a very known shoe brand. They will send the shoes and sometimes the material that can be sourced all over Europe here to a shop, a factory, a manufacturer. And here they assemble the basics of the shoe. Okay, then they send it for to another shop of the company here in Europe, or back to the home shop where they do the other part of the process, and then they might send it to another country to do the package and the sending. Even in the US, there are a lot of manufacturers from European brands that are working like this. They send the material, they send the prepared, well, let's call what we are talking about shoes, let's talk about shoes. They send the prepared shoes and all the material and all of that to a shop in the US of them, a manufacturer of them, and then that manufacturer, according to the specifications of the brand, they do the assembly there and they sell it. You want to know why? For you to have your shoes cheaper. Okay? Have you not understood, sorry, have you not understood that in all phases of this business, the producer is always the same? It's the same person and company, making sure that that is a high quality product. And it is. Look, I said that in the stream too. I really don't care about those things. I like things that are functional and durable. The rest, for me, if it has a brand or not, for me, it's not important for me. I don't live my life like that. Only when I'm drawing, I have to have a specific brand of material because I have worked out over the years that when I'm drawing and I have that material, what I do comes out better. Or the strings for my guitar, for example. You know, these are the petty things that I spend some of the money that I earn besides my survival. Okay? I'm not a big spender. But do you understand? Even they have come out and told, no, that is not true. No, we don't do that. What they have in China, they might have factories, manufacturers, just like you have in US. But those manufacturers, they are producing products to sell inside the Chinese market because we sell there. We sell cars, we sell goods, we sell everything there too. China is not a closed market. It's a restricted market, but it's not a closed market. And you have this president that does not have the faintest clue of what he is going to do now, blurting out this crap that is only going to increase the anger of people. I am sure that there are people that will attack Walmarts, or even more worrying, the people that work there, They are going to cause a civil unrest. And I wonder, how can you allow this? If you voted for this, if you feel like you were wronged, look, it happens. Right now, when he came out with that, what should you have done? Look, I would send him a letter and say, my friend, I thought you told me that those tariffs would not be paid by the American consumer. And now we are paid. Explain it. And don't give me the rhetoric of they are getting all of the income. You are a businessman and you know why you do business. You do business to get money, not for providing a service. No. A priest is trying to save my soul. A salesman is trying to sell me something. Both of them have a purpose, but both purposes are very different. Look, I don't really think that people have understood how damaging this is when your president comes out and says this. The world listens. Right now, they are beginning to just ignore it as useless rabble. But the truth is, the US still has a big influence in the world. And what the US is doing is, in first hand, it's damaging itself. Then it's affecting the allies that more and more are distancing themselves from the mess. They are selling their US debt. Remember that for the first time in 60 years, your debt went down a notch. 60 bloody years from being perfect to minus. This is just the beginning. It may even get worse if this continues. But it will be slow. It will be hard. And this comedy will go on for years. If it ever ends well. Let us hope that it at least stabilizes. But China is the great winner of all of this. They are the great winners of all this. They are winning over Russia with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Do you see the pattern? Do you understand? Do you have the capability to see? Well, this one has went on long enough. I well, I hope you have a good evening. Okay, it's evening for me, and please stay safe. And if you are an American, what can I tell you? Good luck.